Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Unlocking Venture Capital. So I'm here with my friend Gilad. Hi, Gilad. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for inviting me.
So he's the managing partner of YYM Ventures, which is a family office out in Israel. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what your family office invests in.
Yeah, sure. First of all, so it's great to be here. And so basically, we are an American family office, by the way, not an Israeli one. So my boss, the sponsor, he used to live in the States for about 25 years. He used to be the CEO and the founder of an American public trade company by the name of DKUS. And now he's the active chairman of the company and he's back in Israel. But basically, we are registered in the States. My background is in the cybersecurity. So for the last 20 years, I'm very old, as you can see, and bald. So for the last 20 years, I've been doing cybersecurity, most of the time for the government. And don't ask me because we'll have to kill you. Okay, so but this was most of my time, and then from the private sector, private companies, PwC, and so on. And for the last, let's say, 3.5 years, I'm running the private investments of YYM Ventures. A few words about us. So basically, we are investing in early stage startups, cybersecurity startups, but not just cybersecurity startups, but this is the majority. So this is one pillar. The other two pillars are the real estate pillars. So we are investing in real estate assets in the States only. And the last one is private equity deals, also in the States only.
Okay, great. And so is there a certain kind of balance of portfolio? So when you said that it's mostly cybersecurity, what percentage of the portfolio versus your other two pillars? And kind of how do you source that as a part of your strategy?
Yeah, cool. So we started with venture capital, and the real estate pillar is kind of new to us. But the allocation, so the venture capital is the smallest part, but is the most fun one because you meet a lot of intelligent people. The entrepreneurs are amazing. So this is the part that I like the most. So part of allocation. So this is most of the money is in the private equity side and in the real estate side. I don't want the particular numbers, but this is most of the allocation. What was the second question about?
How do you decide in terms of your
Yeah,
strategy, like
yeah.
how you're sourcing them based on how much you want to allocate?
Yeah, let's focus on the venture capital side because it will be the easy one. So, there is a triangle when you're talking about early stage startups, you're talking about the entrepreneur, you're talking, and the team, you're talking about the technology and the market. Now, you need the three of them if you want to find a successful or potential of a successful company.
Hmm.
So in early stage, I'm particularly looking at the entrepreneur and the team to see whether I like them, whether I can smell them, okay, and like dogs, and to find that there is a chemistry between us because this is partnership. So this is the first stage, and then if everything works great, we are looking at the technology and the market, and see whether it's in the benchmark of what we are looking for.
Great. Okay, that sounds fantastic. And so I get asked this a lot, actually very specifically recently at a conference where this young woman like followed me around, was like, "You're doing exactly what I want to do. How do you get into that?" And I was like, "You've always wanted to get into family office?" So because it's never really an open position. So being recruited into family office is like such an odd thing. So would love to kind of understand your journey. I exited through the family to my company to the family office, which is how as I told you. But how did your journey kind of go from where you were in cybersecurity and then went into family office fund?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it is very odd. I'm sure you did not
Yeah,
run the typical application.
yeah, you're right. So in Israel, it's the same as you mentioned before. So you can find it, in the papers.
Yeah, the paper.
And yeah, and like every, I don't know, a great story, it was by accident. So I used to do some kind of work in my previous company for the family.
Mm,
Not for the family, or for the CEO, or the sponsor of the family.
okay.
And then during the COVID, they wanted to invest in cybersecurity. And and there was not a lot to do because it was COVID and everybody was at home. I did some gathering and they reached me and they told me, okay, so we want to learn cybersecurity. And I told them, okay, so let's do it. So we scheduled a Zoom call every Sunday afternoon. And I teach them cybersecurity. And after about 6 months or so, we said, okay, why won't we do something together? And I said, okay, sounds great. And I didn't know what is family office. I Google it.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, because it
yeah.
sounds odd. Like,
What
how do
is
you have an
family
office
office?
for a family?
Exactly. And then after learning a bit, and we did some things together, and it was great. And I can tell you, and all the people that are listening, that this is not a rocket science. You know, everybody can do it if you know how to talk to people, because it's everything, everything about, investing in early stage is about reaching out to people and talk to them. The way that I met you, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I felt that we had so many parallels because we came from family office and like, how you took over 2 years to get them to put up a website. And my reaction was like, how did you do that in only 2 years? It's been 4.5 years for me. I still don't have a website. How'd you get that? And so
Yeah.
these kinds of things were so like you said, it's both not rocket science, but it's very opaque. There's very little that the world knows about, family offices and things like that. So for example, like, in our family office fund, we have other sources of revenue that are from Asia. So, like, real estate, other hedge funds, those kinds of things, other investments that has nothing to do with venture. But all the venture partners in Canada and US really only work on the venture side. So, when you are working with the family office fund, do you have exposure or visibility to the other sides of the family office, or do you mostly work on the venture side? And kind of how do you build those relationships? And also, if they exist.
Yes, so there is no much in a relationship between me and and the buying bonds and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
But from time to time, there's a company that that other guys are thinking about. What is your opinion about this company from your experience in the
Got it.
venture side? Because most of my companies are very early. Okay, so there can be a team of 4 people,
Yeah.
and this is very different, from companies in the private equity sector. So there is a collaboration, of course, and everybody is talking with everybody and so on. But from my side, if I want a good advice, I am contacting my colleagues, because we have, for example, we have a WhatsApp group of other family offices in Israel, and you just ask your colleagues about, okay, what is the criteria for these terms, or what you think about this one, or what is the benchmark, and then you can get more information about what is the next step.
That's so interesting. Yeah, so it is very similar in terms of that. Even within the family office, you also have the same parallel walls that I've also experienced. Because when I was kind of like, oh yeah, these are also other parts of the family office fund that we just don't interact with normally, and that seemed like the perfectly normal thing until you say it out loud to other people in venture, and they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's like perfectly normal for us. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's so interesting that you experience very similar things because it's very normal in that world, I felt.
yeah.
That's
Totally
so
agree. Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
I really love how you went that you joined this family office from being a tutor every Sunday and and then being like, this is the expertise that they want to learn. This is great. I love that. I also know that you also served in the Israeli Defense Forces. So it's not a secret that all men and women serve in the forces in some part when you're born and raised in Israel. So would love to know how your military background, gave you insights in your venture career.
I believe that the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, is kind of build your characters. So teach you how to put stuff in the right boxes.
Yeah.
And this is something that you can get in college, because army is everything is about. It's about culture. It's about training. It's about getting in time. Okay, when I met you, I told myself, okay, so I must be in time. And this is something that you learn in army. And I think that this is something that reflects, things, in the real world.
Yeah.
So, and this is basically it, about, about coming in time, and about doing everything in the right order and everything. So I believe this is mainly it.
That's so interesting. I really love that. And I also, know that you are flown to different places because we also met up in New York after we've met online too. So were there any similarities that you have found when it came to startups in the New York ecosystem, well, American ecosystem versus the Israeli ecosystem, which we hear a lot about, but we hear it like it's a storybook.
So you, it's a great question because I haven't saw a lot. So mainly my visits in the States was concentrated in finding investors
Hmm.
that like you, like me, okay,
Yeah,
from
like
family office most of the time,
co-investors.
or yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe I saw just a few startups from the States. One of our difficulties in examining or study, a US related startup is that the culture is a bit different.
That's
So this is one thing, and then the other thing is running the due diligence because in Israel everybody knows everybody, and if I want to to invest in this startup, I will surely find someone that knows this guy. And if I'm going to approach the US market, for example, it will be difficult, to run the personal DD about the entrepreneur.
yeah.
So this is one main difference that I can see here.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's very difficult to do kind of like what you would call like your back channel due diligence on, when you don't have any information about these kinds of startups, these kinds of sectors, and coming kind of coming into a whole new world as it is. So I think that is really interesting as well. So people ask me this about my family office a lot, and I know that we've had a brief conversation about this as well in terms of the strategy when it comes to direct investments versus LP investments. I know that you guys have done LP investments in the past. I was just wondering what kind of qualities would you say that you were looking for in fund managers in the past investments that you've had when you guys invested in the past? Did they have to do with long relationships with the family specifically, or were they more strategic in a sense?
Yeah, this is a great question. So first of all, as I mentioned during in our previous conversation, we used to invest in funds in VCs, but nowadays we are not doing this. The reason that we wanted to invest in funds is because I believe it's two or three reasons. So the first one is to build a relationship. Okay, we
Yeah.
wanted to be part of something. The second one, we wanted like everybody else, the allocation for following investments. And of course, the first one was to gain money. And the things that I saw is that with a family office that have direct investments,
Mhm.
or you can do, or you have an exposure to a great deal flow, you can do it by yourself. So we decided not to do it anymore. Now, to your point, I believe that the great fund managers were the one that gave me a call each month or so, invited me to their office, gave me something that I can, I can do with them together, and expose me to one of the deals or to the deals, not to decide whether they are going to invest in this deal because this is not what they are doing, but presenting me some of their doing to show me that I'm part of something. These were the great ones, yeah.
Yeah, I think that actually was like a common theme that I've been hearing over this past year, the past 12 months, especially because it's been so difficult to fundraise. And so LPs are actually extracting their money, whether they're high net worth individuals, family offices, sovereignty funds, like whatever the case is, because they're like, after we've given you the money, we don't hear from you for a long, 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 long time. So it's really
Exactly,
interesting that you're
exactly.
like, these are the tips from the ones that did really well. And these are the relationships that you want to keep building. So then, I don't know when the last time was that you've invested in the LP as an LP, but afterwards, this is also interesting to me as someone who's begged my family office to be an LP investor for many years. I also was just wondering, like, when you stop, investing or you don't allocate anymore into these particular funds, how do you keep that relationship going in order to co-invest with them, in order to, work on deals and things like that together? So do you have any tips for the, the other side of that coin?
So first of all, I'm getting the reports about each quarter. There is a system, an online system that I will get the report.
Right.
And basically, after I'm getting the reports, I'm reaching out. So sometimes it's for getting more information about their reports. But when I saw, okay, there is this company that I know that is going to do exit or something like this. So what are your holding there? Your holding there in this company and so on. And so I'm trying to reach out to them at least each quarter, to see what's new. Maybe I can find something for me. Another thing is that, like in New York, in Israel, there are some kind of, each in the summer it's more often, but there are conferences and meetings when people from the VCs and people from family offices and angels, entrepreneurs are gathering, to bring something. And then I'm finding the guys or the people that are running the fund, and then we have some kind of talk or something to find out where there is something new or something like this.
Okay, great. Okay, fantastic. So you kind of do that outward reach out approach to make sure that
Yeah,
you have high level touch points on a regular basis.
yeah.
Okay, great. What if they kind of like don't have a lot of updates to give you? Is there something that you can provide or something that you can talk about that would still continue that high level touch point if they don't
That,
have many updates on their side?
so yeah. So in this case, I can update them. So basically, because we also lead rounds,
Right,
I
right.
can give them, of course, from my cake, okay, from my side, and where maybe I can lead and they will follow. Okay, so this is kind of mutual relationship. So yeah,
I love that because actually not a lot of family offices on our side of the world do a lot of leading. That's done purposefully as well. And so yeah, so that's really interesting that you guys also are able to provide that when there isn't a lead, because we all know how important and how also difficult it is, especially for first-time founders, to find and secure leads, especially in their earlier rounds, and they just don't have a lot of people to really go through. So that's really great. Okay, awesome. And yeah, and so the next time you would like to come back to America, what kind of things are you looking for?
okay. So I probably will come, on September,
Oh, amazing.
and so yeah, and there are three main reasons. So the first one is to meet you. The
Obviously.
second one, the second one, in the beginning of September, there is a cyber tech event.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's an Israeli-based event that occurs in New York in the beginning of September. So I'm going to meet there a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of investors, not just from Israel, but around the US. And the last one is we are nowadays seeking for investment bankers, bankers, and other people that can assist us in deal flow in the private equity sector.
Okay.
So looking for brokers or people that are doing mid-size deals that can be one of our pipeline to find the next deal in the private equity sector. So I believe this will be the main purpose of my next visit. But
As if
I'm
you guys are
I'm a
investing.
tech guy, so I'm going to meet tech people also.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can't really stay away from the tech people. They're just going to be there
Start.
no matter what. So you guys are going to be investing in the private equity deals, or is it the other way around where you want them to invest in your current portfolio companies
So
and bring
yeah,
them up?
so we want to be the private equity. So
Okay.
basically, we are seeking of distressed companies or companies that in distress situation. Okay, and we want to save the day. Okay, so something like zero EBITDA or negative EBITDA, and find out what went wrong, and put some money inside, and do the magic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And would love
Yeah,
your kind of take because I actually thought the market was gonna turn a little differently. So I thought that, because there is a lot of strain on capital right now, interest rates are really high. It's very difficult for fund managers to fundraise, which is why, in your online groups and mine online groups, there are lots of like funds, venture studios, people like that who are like, we are also
yeah.
a family office. Please let us in. And so, just wondering what you were thinking about in terms of the private equity route for companies, like say growth companies, versus secondary deals for growth companies, because those are two very different paths, but they're also two should be more common paths, as I would think that they would be a lot more common today than they were. So there are definitely more than in the past, for sure. But what are you seeing in terms of these kinds of options?
To tell you the truth, we haven't done any secondary deal,
Mm,
from my perspective, not in the venture capital side and not in the other side. We had, we have our own a water company in Texas. And so we've done some kind of, not some kind, but we've done some private equity. So we have an experience in this way. But, you mentioned before raising funds.
yeah.
Now we see a difficulty in raising funds for new VCs and a second timer VCs, let's call it like this. Okay. Because I believe that most of people like us, family offices, I will say it, with like this. Some of them think that the VC platform is a bit broken, okay, and they are seeking for a deal by deal. So I believe that the next generation of VCs will be deal by deal, venture capitals, when the family office or the investor or the LP can choose whenever you want to invest and in what you want to invest.
Okay.
And this will be, a bit changing of what we can see today.
That's so interesting. So you think it's going to be almost like an SPV deal with a bunch of fund
Yes.
managers.
Yes.
Interesting.
I believe it will be something like this because the family office that I've been talking to in Israel are, they don't want to invest in funds when they can see what is going on. Because, all the bubble that was in 2022 and you saw a lot of VCs that got crashed and invested in crypto or NFT or something like this. And they want to be in control now.
Okay, fantastic. So, lastly, I want to ask you about your take on cybersecurity. So, of course, there is that famous worldwide outage that just happened. So, kind of, what was your insight on that? What do you think the world could learn from that situation going forward?
So the bad news is that it can happen today, it can happen tomorrow, it can happen any
These
day
are not good
because
news. Yeah.
yeah, I said I will start with the bad news. Because this is tech, because it can happen if someone is forgetting to put a comma in the line of the code, because it can happen if someone didn't upgrade his system, because it can happen if a lot of reasons of why these kind of things can happen. Someone didn't check the code appropriately or something like this. So it can happen daily, and I believe that it will become with more influence in our life because each day we are using technology in much more I don't know, powerful use and so on. So it will happen again, and we don't need to be afraid about it. So now everyone have to have is second is lifeguard. Okay, let's say this. Okay, it's lifeguard. So let's talk about hospitals for a minute. So if you're working in a hospital, and I can tell you that in Israel, a lot of hospitals stopped working after this malfunction. Now each of them has to plan the data recovery plan. Okay, we have to plan what will happen if someday all the computer will start to work. Okay, what can I do then? Will I take my pen? Let's see my pen here. Will I take the paper? What can I do? So you have all the time, you have to be prepared, for a rainy day. This is basically it.
Yeah, that is definitely a tough lesson to learn because there were so many industries that were being affected. And I'm sure, you being the cybersecurity guy, being the expert in this space, there were colleagues and partners all around the world that were asking you, what's going on and why? What are we going to do? And so,
Yeah.
being able to respond calmly is definitely very difficult because you're right, it can happen again. And that has to be also part of the learning, which is very scary.
Yeah, you have to be prepared all the time. You have to prepare your backups, by the way. Okay, a lot of people doesn't understand any backups. You have to prepare your backups. And by the way, this wasn't a cyber attack. Okay, this was a malfunction in the code.
That's true. Yeah.
And but
There were so many conspiracies about what it was.
yeah, someone wrote that Google made it because they want Microsoft to suffer. But I don't know.
It could be.
Yeah,
It could be.
yeah,
That's how the world of competition and startups work, right?
yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on as a guest. You were so wonderful to have. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in on another episode of Unlocking Venture Capital.